Star Wars fans, we are at Pike Place Market where we're going to visit with one of our friends who runs 1976 It's Just Art, a small pop culture and Star Wars art booth. All right, guys, we are now here with Dan Gregory, who is the artist who created all this amazing artwork. Tell us, how did you get into this? How did this all come about?
I've drawn for most of my life, usually inspired by things around me, life in general. I grew up watching a lot of movies. I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. I've always been interested in sci-fi, Star Wars, the Dark Crystal, fantasy.
What is it about Star Wars that was really just like, oh, I got to do this? Like, you've done all this amazing kind of cool Star Wars street art. We have a lot of it, like the Comlink crew. What is it about Admiral Akbar or the Wampa that really just grabbed you?
In my art studio, as I create art, and I watch a lot of movies. I'll have movies playing in the background, and Star Wars is one of my favorites. I've seen it so many times, I can literally listen to it and watch the movie in my head. During this time, I will hear a quote, and it'll instantly spark an idea or a drawing. But I think, for the most part, just the love of Star Wars.
What is your favorite Star Wars movie, Star Wars quote, Star Wars character?
Favorite movies, Empire Strikes Back. Favorite characters, Boba Fett. And favorite quote would have to be, "He's no good to me dead."
What is the most popular, best-selling piece of Star Wars art you've done?
I gotta say Master Yoda.
Really?
Master Yoda, yeah. From young to old, Master Yoda spans all age groups.
And what's your typical Yoda quote that you add with it?
I think for the younger generation, the famous "try not, do or do not, there is no try." But for the older generation, I do one of Yoda with an extremely large lightsaber, and it says, "Judge me by my size, do you?"
Talk to us a little bit about your style. It's kind of like a graffiti, street art.
Very inspired by comic artists, and I think reading comics and just being around street art and all the color and perspectives that are involved in those have just really impacted my art tremendously. I love taking pre-existing characters and putting my twist on them.
That's awesome. I love the spray paint stuff. How did you do, where did the idea for this vinyl thing come from? And how do you pick the record? Like, you're not spray painting like, the Beatles, right?
Of course, no. What I do is I call them recycled records. I get them at Goodwill, at thrift stores, I get them at rummage sales. So by the time I purchase them, they've been very picked over and they're very damaged. And I think people relate to that. It's something they grew up with. So putting something like a movie on something musical that they grew up with is a great combo.
It's kind of cool too, because you're kind of taking a piece of pop culture and repurposing it
with more pop culture.
With more pop culture. So there's kind of like the medium that you're using plays into the art you're creating, which is really awesome.
Absolutely.
Rumor has it that you've started working on something for us.
I have. What I have here is a hat. This is how I start my hats. They all start with a pencil. You guys at Comlink had sent me a logo and asked me if I could draw it on a hat. Now it's going to be a little bit distorted. That's usually how my style is. I usually like to twist a logo a little bit and give it a little bit of my own design. I'll first sketch it out in pencil. Then I'll redo all the lines with a nice fine black Copic marker. I'll color it in with pens and then retrace the whole design again with the Copic marker, giving it all of its definition, shading, fine details.
Awesome, and I notice here you number all of your hats.
I do. I've been doing this for a little over 10 years, and amazingly enough, I've drawn over 15,000 hats. The Comlink hat will be number 15,116.
And now, when you do a Star Wars hat, is it from memory, or do you ever go back and you check out Admiral Akbar or somebody like that?
No, great question. What will happen is I'll draw a character, and I'll get so comfortable drawing them that I'll draw them over and over and over, and they start to morph a little. So after about a dozen times of drawing one, I'll typically go back and look at the picture again, because I'll notice over time their eyes move a little bit, or little details get forgotten or added.
All right, well, we're gonna let you get working on the hat here.
Thank
we're
you.
gonna check in
Thank
with
you.
you throughout the process. How long
Fantastic.
do you think it's gonna take you to finish this guy up?
Typically hats take about an hour. I'm gonna put about an hour and a half into this one. You can see here I finished inking the design, and what I'm going to do now is start from the closest point of the design and work my way into the background, kind of opposite of a traditional painting. And when you're working on these hats, since the material itself gives away a little bit, there's a little bit of a pressure that you have to use. So unlike drawing, it's kind of a combination between drawing and painting, because not only are you using pressure for every stroke, but you also have to watch the bleed of the markers, kind of like painting.
So we're done.
We're done.
This is a masterpiece. I almost feel like we should permanently change the Comlink logo and everything to that. That's so awesome. Thank you so much.
I'm so humbled. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So what was it like? Was it challenging? Was it easy? Did you have fun with it?
Yes, yes, and yes. Your logo has a lot of depth. There's a lot of overlaying of the designs. Drawing it, making sure everything lined up the best I could freehand-wise was great. And then, of course, you guys gave me a little free rein on color and design, so I was able to add a little bit more to it, which I want to thank you so much for.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. I mean, that's what art's all about, right?
True that.
We probably have a million Star Wars fans out there like, oh, that's awesome. Where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook. I'm under the title 1976 It's Just Art, and there's an apostrophe in there. And I'm also on Instagram. I've got a lot of art on there. It's Mr. Dan 1976 on Instagram.
All right, guys, you got to hear. This is the place to be for Star Wars art in Seattle. Thank you so much. Dan, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate
All
your
right,
time.
see you soon.
Thank you.